Hello and welcome to the Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast. We are back. God, my words are getting tongue-tied already. What is this club doing to us? With PSG on the horizon. Just a quiet week in store for Thomas Frank's Tottenham, where the focus, it feels, is very much on the man, Thomas Frank, helping us, guide us, dissect, look forwards, not behind the sofa, to the next instalment of the chapter of Tottenham Hotspur. We've got three great guests to Last Word on Spurs, one returning guest who is looking more professional than ever on this show, a debutant we're hanging out, and a man that just can't get away from this football club. Back on the show. Listen, he feels like he's funny every week right now. That's what it's doing to him. Jonathan Hamme's back on. John, lovely to have you here. How are you?
All good, all good. Absolutely buzzing. 2 days without having to watch Spurs. What could be better than that? And just ready to get back tomorrow for Thomas the Blank Engine against PSG. Should be fun and games, huh?
The Blank Engine.
Thanks to everyone. Great to see Patrick again. Haven't streamed with him for a while, and lovely to see you, Jack. First time streaming with you, and Ricky, as always. And hello to everyone in the chat.
Bless your heart. The Blank Engine, the Stank Engine. God, it could be a number of different things right now. Let's also bring back onto the show, looking very professional, very suave. Many thought he got killed off by Tottenham. Not just yet. Chatty Patty is back on. Pat, lovely to be back alongside us. How are you?
Yeah, man. It's great to be back. I'm okay. Obviously, yeah, it's been a bit of a stink fest, like Johnny said, hasn't it? But happy to be back. Love to everyone in the comments. Good to be on with Jack for the first time. And yeah, it's we got a Champions League game tomorrow, boys. You never know that, would you? But yeah, we have got a Champions League, a big Champions League game tomorrow. So yeah.
Yeah. No offense. I think, Pat, your own looks like you've come good out of this last 6 months. You've gone away. You've come back looking refreshed and rebranded. The rest of us have been put through the ringer and we're still going again. And one man that's probably fresher to Last Word on Spurs than anybody right now, but he has been round the Spurs block for many, many years. I hope my mum is saying it. There's a great podcast, Rule The Roost Podcast. Of course, you catch him a lot, obviously on the audio platforms. Had some great guests on there, got the last year or two, and still putting up a lot. Daily shows, post-match shows, on the whistle, quite literally on the whistle, not like us, always late. We've got Jack in the house from Rule The Roost. Jack, thanks for joining us. Lovely to have you make your debut. Sorry, it's under more difficult circumstances than maybe we planned a couple of weeks ago now.
I know, isn't it, Rick? I know. What a baptism of fire this is, getting me on after we've just been battered 4-1 by Arsenal. Cheers, mate. But, thank you thank you very much for having me on the show. And, I liked the way you dropped in there that I've had some great guests after you were just on my pod a couple of weeks ago. So,
I meant before me, by the way, not after me.
Yeah. No, cheers. I'm loving this energy, Rick. This is, you wouldn't think we've just been beaten by Arsenal and we've got PSG tomorrow. So I need this, mate. I've had the the past couple of days, so it's good.
Well, we're going to be going 4 minutes, Jack. This is where it might start going downhill. I can't promise anything from here. Look, let's start where we are with regards to Thomas Frank. Look, we are building up to a big, big game, of course, in the Champions League for Tottenham against PSG. Like Pat said, you wouldn't know it because the last few days have been dominated by Thomas Frank, his future. Yes, we're already there. We're already there in nearly end of November, discussing, dissecting, debating whether we've got the right manager in charge. And on top of that, I think when you're hearing reports like this, it already puts a focus and a spotlight on the manager. And what is being reported by Telegraph Sport in the last couple of days, that Tottenham want to give Thomas Frank time to get things right, despite fears around the club that Frank's numerous changes have contributed to inconsistency and the team's lack of attacking potency. Some players are thought to be keen for Frank to focus more on the strengths of his own team rather than the opposition, although it is unclear how strong and widespread that feeling is. Now, the Lewis family, the club's owners, obviously rebranded in the summer, minus Daniel Levy, have been clear in their messaging that they are targeting long-term sporting success under Frank, and it is understood to remain the case, which suggests at this moment, no short-term decisions are on the horizon, and it is thought Spurs are prioritising in January a number of forward options, particularly on the left-hand side of the team, and a striker up front. The club are determined to look for players who will be signed to make an impact in the team and not just bolster the squad or add another option in the rotation. and are ready to spend the money. So we do need to discuss Thomas Frank, who was only in the last couple of hours, for listeners on audio, just held his pre-match press conference going into PSG. Jack, you're a fresh voice on here, a fresh face on here, so it means all lambs to the slaughter. Where are we with regards to Thomas Frank as European champion meets European champion? I can't believe I'm saying that going into this game against PSG.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it, mate? I mean, I would say, look, I'm decidedly on the fence on the matter right now. Look, we as fans are always going to have an emotional reaction to things. And obviously we're going to have an emotional reaction to seeing Spurs not playing particularly well. You know, there are certain principles that our club's identity is founded upon. That's playing expansive, attacking, exciting football, not waiting for the opposition to die of boredom, you know, if you know your history, all that type of thing, right? And we're not seeing enough of that for Thomas Frank. We're not seeing enough of the impetus going into a North London derby set up that way, seemingly trying to stop Arsenal instead of trying to hurt Arsenal. It's not the mentality we want. It's not the mentality we need for a club of our level. I think, look, you can listen to Arsenal fans, Chelsea fans telling us what we are, that we're tin pot with this or that. I think we all know, right, even without bias, Spurs are a club of a certain level now. We're a club of a certain stature. And what comes with that is a certain level of expectation. Thomas Frank isn't going to be able to escape from that, right? We're always going to have these question marks floating around him. Is he making that step up from a club like Brentford well enough to Spurs? Is he handling that pressure? Our emotional, sort of to my point at the top, our emotional reaction right now is going to be saying, no, he can't handle this, because he's showing us right now that he isn't wired in the way of turning Tottenham into a truly sort of elite attacking outfit, a team that wants to have time on the ball, a team that wants to impress an ideology upon an opposition team, upon the league, to be known for Tottenham who do this, who play in a certain way other than trying to stop the opposition, right? But the reason why I'm on the fence with this is because, look, in my sort of emotional feeling towards it now is, especially after that North London derby, was he hasn't got it. He's not cut out for management at this level. I think he seems like a very nice man. Even when I was watching the pre-match presser, Rick, like you were saying, the PSG one, I was watching this and I was thinking, he's a nice man. He's a nice bloke. And then in my head, I'm thinking, but at this level, they're horrible. You know, it's Pep, it's Arteta. Klopp was very smiley, but he was nasty. He was snarly, you know? Yeah, exactly. Whereas, does Frank have that in him? I'm not so sure. Does that mean he can't be a top-level manager? I don't know. What I do feel right now, and this is the crucial thing for me, is, number one, who steps in? If we get rid of Frank after the PSG game, we get walloped 7-0, and it's like, right, that's it. Players aren't behind him anymore. It's done, you know? We get rid of him. Who comes in? I couldn't tell you. You know, that's number one problem for me. The other one is, I don't think it's healthy for the club to be in a constant cycle of going through managers, getting rid of managers, bringing in a new manager, hoping that it will work. I don't know if we'll talk about it later, Rick, but there's, you know, Glasner, Iraola. There are some of these managers who they seem very attractive from the outside, but so did Thomas Frank. These are still managers that would have to take a step up. You know, Oliver Glasner is a manager who also kind of prefers to be out of possession like Thomas Frank does. It's a style sort of reminiscent of Thomas Frank's. Are we going to have the same problem again in 10, 15 matches down the line? How many games did it take him to start getting success at Crystal Palace at the top? My point is, there's always going to be considerations. There's always going to be rough patches. And I think right now we have to try and step outside of that emotional zone and just see if this is a bad patch for Frank, if this is a rocky start, if this is him trying to implement an ideology without the likes of Kulusevski, without the likes of Maddison, without Dom Solanke up top for him, right? And if he can weather this storm, if he can just get out of this, wait for these sort of players to come back, then maybe I think it's, and we keep playing this way, then maybe it's time to be having these discussions. But I think right now we just have to, do you know what I mean? We just got to put our armour on and just take this for what it is right now, because I don't think it puts Tottenham in a good place to get rid of him now, is my point.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair, Jack. I know there's a lot of fans that are not Tottenham that must think Tottenham, these fans, they are such a self-entitled club that just feel they can just keep changing the manager every 5 minutes. I mean, I know, again, it was addressed to Frank in the presser. Pat, we'll come over to you. Spurs have had 6 managers in 6 years, and it was put to him about the fact, is it now a time where Tottenham need to stick by the manager and give him time to build? And Frank did say that, look, based on his time at Brentford, he's known to be able to build sides. He made that very, very clear in that presser. I wouldn't say he come out all guns blazing or was, you know, all swinging fists, if you want to put it as that matter. But there was a real kind of energy behind Frank to suggest that he still feels he's the right man for the job. What's been your takeaway, Pat? Because at the moment we are, 3 wins in the last 11 games in all competitions. It doesn't make pretty reading, Pat, going into such a crucial week for the club.
Yeah, no, what's good, everyone? Hope everyone's well in the comments. If you're listening or watching this back later on, I hope you're well as well. But going off of what you just said, Ricky, I think we as fans need to get a bit more bottle and a bit more backbone. We asked that from our players, and I think now going through a rocky patch, we need to show a bit of fight and a bit of mettle. And it's a bit ironic me saying that when the players didn't do that on Sunday, but. Yeah, I think we can't keep chopping and changing. Jack made a good point. We can't keep chopping and changing every 5 minutes, every 5 months. And I think at some point we need to stick with a manager. Don't get me wrong, if Frank isn't the right guy, time will tell. But we can't keep, I don't think the mentality right now should be to get him out. And I am by no means happy with what I've seen. I thought Sunday's performance was a disgrace in a North London derby. Just the bare minimum wasn't applied. Like, no one really looked up for it. No one came out fighting. I mean, you know, even if I put 10, 11-year-olds or 12-year-olds out there, I'd expect to see more fight and more courage than what I saw. And even the manager, like, playing 5 at the back, 2 in midfield. What are you doing? It just made no sense whatsoever. But I don't think now, as fans, when the going gets tough, then we all need to just, do you know what I mean, dash the manager under a bus. Obviously, it's not pretty reading. The football's awful at the moment. You know, like, stats aside, if you're watching the game, you can see that we're not playing any sort of football. There's no brand. I don't really know what we're doing. Are we a defensive team? No. Are we trying to, you know, play football? No. Are we trying to build from the back? No. Are we trying to counter-attack? No. There's literally nothing going on. But I do think he needs time. It's very early days. If you look at... And I hate to use them as the blueprint, but if you look at Arsenal down the road, it took Arteta 2 years to really get going after being backed, and his fan base were basically doing the same thing we're doing right now. And if you look at a lot of managers, even in Pep's first season and Klopp's first season, it was quite rocky. We're still in the mix. I know, obviously, it's frustrating that we lost the derby the way we lost. Of course it is, but we also have to be realistic. Arsenal are right now one of the best teams in Europe. We're nowhere near it. We finished 17th last season, and it's chalk and cheese right now when you look at their team and you look at our team, you look at a brand new manager coming in, and you know, no one wants to hear this. Of course they don't. You know, you're playing your North London rivals. It's a derby you expect to see, but also we have to be realistic right now. The games are coming that the guys can buck their ideas up, but I don't think
I think, like, Tottenham season so far, it started so well for Pat's Wi-Fi, and it's slowly died off here. Pat, I don't know if you can hear us. I hope you can. We're going to let Pat do a reset on his router and come back in. Pat, I'll let you do a quick reset on the router and come back in. It's been so long since Pat's been on this show. The internet is getting used to the bandwidth this takes up. So, Pat, we'll let you quickly do a reset, and we'll come over to you, Johnny, at the moment. Look, the boys have kind of summarised there really what we've had to go through, obviously, in this last week or so, regards to that defeat in North London derby and how big these couple of games are for Frank. Like, you know, said Frank has been talking to the media. He said he's watched that North London derby back. He knows it was a tough watch. He knows the performance was nowhere near good enough. He said it's been a good 2 days since, with talks and meetings, mainly about how we improve and how we go forward. And he understands and makes this very clear. There is going to be setbacks, and it's how you react. He feels for him, he was built for this challenge. It's exactly the reason why he left Brentford, to step up for this challenge. How much, Johnny, do you think he's ready for what this job does entail at Spurs? Because we all knew there were going to be periods where it wasn't going to be easy. And it's fair to say maybe it's come earlier than expected. What do you make of it, Johnny, at the moment?
I'd love to know out there how many Spurs fans truly believed, hand on heart, after losing 22 games in the league and finishing 17th. They thought any manager was going to come in, flip a switch, and make it all better. I don't understand what fans were expecting. And, you know, before the window closed, all I heard was our attack's not good enough. This isn't good enough. That's not good enough. And yet what happened was they, as soon as, something happened, they rounded on the manager. Look, he's asked for patience, and I think we've got a fan base full of patience. Who needs some medication. Calm down, right? Calm down. Take a chill pill, right? No one is enjoying this football, right? No one, okay? We all can see it ain't good enough. We can all see what is wrong. But as Jack said, the cure for sickness is not to get rid of the doctor, right? It's to get rid of the disease, and the disease is the malaise and the mental attitude that has been at the club for a long time. We've been losing games consistently for the last 18 months, and we seem to have continued. That game against Arsenal absolutely disgusted me. It really did. I've been to many games where I've walked home and we've been slaughtered or we played badly. But nothing disgusted me like that game did, because there was no fight. I've seen shittier teams than what we put out there. It wasn't a great team we put out, but I've seen worse teams than that. Fight more, give more. And, you can say, yeah, we lost to the better team. And let's make no bones about it. Arsenal are on another level to us. Anyone who thinks we're on the same level as Arsenal or anywhere near Arsenal is having a laugh. It's been 6 years in the making. They have improved every single aspect of that team over and over again. They had Ramsdale, who was a good keeper, not good enough. We're by Raya, Odegaard, good player, no, not producing it enough. Let's buy Zubimendi. Let's buy this one. Let's buy Eze. Upgrade. Our recruitment has been nowhere near that. But I'm not letting Thomas Frank off the hook here. Everyone needs to take a slice of the blame game. The manager, the players, and the recruitment team. It's not been good enough. It's not good enough. But what I would say is, if we want to sack Thomas Frank, what is the solution? Do you seriously think that we are going to be an attractive proposition, looking at how many managers have been sacked over and over and over again, right? With the way the squad has been performing over the last 18 months. I don't think we will. And I think if you look at, Alex Ferguson, he would have got the sack at Spurs because he wouldn't have lasted. Ruben Amorim would have got the sack. Arteta would have got the sack at Spurs. Iriola didn't win a game for his first 10 games. He'd have got the sack at Spurs. None of them would have lasted. If we have this same mentality every time a manager comes in, it's a completely different look. He speaks about layers. I mean, look, maybe I bigged him up too much. I'm probably guilty of it because I've been watching him for the last 5 years, and I thought he was a really good coach, seeing what he's done with players over that period. But he did that over a period of time. I don't think he's going to have that period of time at Spurs. I really don't. I don't think this fan base is going to allow it. And I hope for his sake and for our sake that he is given the time. Because if he is, I believe he is capable of turning it around. And if he doesn't, and he doesn't change his ethos, because you can't come in, say, I believe in being aggressive and attacking, and then dish up the turgid crap that we got served at Chelsea and at Arsenal. They are our two biggest games, right, of the season. They're the two biggest games. I know all the other rivalries, West Ham, and all that, but for me, it's Chelsea and Arsenal, right? They're the two that matter. And we didn't show up. We didn't show up, and they have to look at themselves in the mirror, and Thomas Frank needs to address it as soon as possible. I haven't even mentioned injuries, because as soon as you mention injuries, you get accused of sticking up for him. And I'm not going to stick up for him, but I'm saying I think we need to be sensible and give him time.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Spurs are topping the days lost from injuries in terms of the players, and we're well aware of that. But again, you know, I always say this because of last season with Ange.
Yeah.
You can't always go down that narrative, because then again, you can't be making excuses what you complained about last season, right? I do want to go back to Jack, but Pat, just to let you finish off your point there, Pat, I think the question to ask you is, do you feel the players are playing for Thomas Frank at the moment? Because the reason why I ask you that is I look back at our start to the season, ironically, against Paris Saint-Germain, where we played ever so well for 80, 85 minutes. I know Jason was very clear about the fact that he felt after 85 minutes, Thomas Frank didn't let a player cross the halfway line. We changed our tactics and enabled PSG to get back into the game, and have ended up losing on penalties. The City game was a really good display. It was well structured. It was cohesive. There was a real good ability to the way Spurs were playing with the ball, without the ball. Everyone was doing their jobs. But I think it's fair to say, Pat, that we haven't seen anywhere near that level of aggressivity with the ball in the last few weeks. I think that's why there are concerns for some fans as to whether the players are really buying into this. What's your gauge for you on that?
I think the players are confused like us. We don't really know what's going on. And I alluded to it. Apologies, my internet crashed out. Annoyingly, I don't know, because it never does that. But as I said, are we a defensive team? Are we a team that is, you know, going to set traps and try and pick the defenders off? Are we a team that plays on the counter? Are we a team that builds up? Are we a team that builds up from the middle and, you know, zips the ball about? I don't really see any sort of football right now, and the players are confused. We're changing every time to a double pivot, 3 in midfield, 5 at the back. No one knows what's going on, and you can see it. And, you know, Xavi Simons, who's essentially our only creative player right now, who I thought no one looked good, but at least when he got on the pitch, he was running at players and causing players to foul him and actually trying to do something progressive. He can't get a start for love or life, and it just doesn't make sense. Richarlison stinks up the game every time he plays, and he still gets a run out. You know, why hasn't Dane Scarlett been given a chance? Surely you can't do any worse than Richarlison. And just nothing really makes sense to me right now. So I think the players are as lost as we are. Hence why we are not seeing anything. And I know, of course, we could see more fight, more desire, more courage. But I just think the players don't really get what's going on. So, yeah, it's confusing, Ricky. I can't really answer your question, to be honest.
Jack, let me come to you. He said in his press conference that performances can always be a bit up and down. And in a 60-game season, there'll be 10 to 12 perfect games, 30 or so in the middle, then the rest below that. You can be defeated, Chelsea and Arsenal, but the others, we were still competitive. We'll keep working at that. Is that a fair analysis how Thomas Frank sees how a season should pan out and what he's made so far of his time at Spurs?
Was that Brentford?
I mean, this is a problem. He's saying the quiet bit out loud, isn't he? I think he's saying the bit that, you know, most of us would concede. Yeah, you know, he's making the point, isn't he, that a season has got ups and downs in it, right? But this all sort of still plays into the fact that he maybe just needs to adjust. He needs to get at the forefront of his mind. When you're managing a club like Spurs, who let's be honest, right? Our aspirations since Pochettino are to one day try and win the Premier League. Is to try and do what Arsenal are doing right now.
Of course.
We've got the foundation there. We've got the platform to do it. And look, I get it. Look, I can't imagine as many rival fans listening to this, but I get that this is the type of chat that always has rival fans saying Spurs are deluded, Spurs are entitled, all this type of thing. But if people are actually being honest and being sort of just genuine about things, you would say London club, loads of money, massive stadium, international profile. Tottenham are there, they're prime for somebody to take them up a level, right? For somebody to improve on what it was that Mauricio Pochettino did 5, 6, 7 years ago now, is who takes Spurs on that next level? Because that's where we're at. And I think that's why we keep having these conversations, and that's why I guess there is often these points of toxicity and infighting in the fan base and stuff, because ultimately Spurs achieved a level of success that we want to not only get back to consistently, but want to do one better than. That's just natural. That's just human nature, right?
And on that point, Jack, the Lewis family are suggesting that was why they wanted to really invest in the side, because that was going to be the start of it. So, I mean, back to that question, Jack, is that what you'd expect? Just 10 to 12 perfect games out of 60 and 30 or so being in the middle for a club like Tottenham? What do you make of that comment from Frank? Is that a fair comment for a Spurs manager, do you think? Is that what you want to be hearing?
No, I think it's ill-advised. Honestly, I think it's one of those things. Like, I think he's probably spoken rashly, and because he's on the spot, right? It's tough, I imagine, being in a press conference, Champions League. You've just come off the back of that game, and it is difficult, and you probably do trip over your words. But that's the job. That's what the job is at this level. And that's the thing. We can sort of sit here and say, well, maybe we don't need to go into all of his words too much and stuff, but that's going to happen. As soon as you start stepping up to this level, you are going to have the press hanging on your every word, changing, or let's sort of say twisting, but say using your words to suit a certain agenda that they want to push. This is what's going to happen. And I think this does play into the idea that a lot of people are speculating about right now, is that he doesn't have the mentality for this level. I think the sort of noises you want to hear from a Tottenham manager, not just from a Tottenham manager, but from the club itself, because we can talk about Daniel Levy, we can talk about the Lewises, but right now, sort of on Thomas Frank, what you want to hear from a Tottenham manager is you want somebody to be ballsy. You want somebody to say, we want to win as many games as we can. If we could, we'd win every single game, every single season. That's what we aspire to do. Not we want to win 10, 12 games and then realise that maybe 30 games are going to be terrible. Leave that for us. Leave that for the miserable fans to talk about in the pub afterwards, right? Let us complain about that. Let us say, bloody typical Tottenham. We only show up for 10 games, whatever. Let us sort of vent that type of stuff. You're the figurehead of the club. You're there to... You're the media. You're the face of the club to the media, right? You're literally doing that right now. You need to be there to inspire people. You need to be there to give people something to want to achieve. And as much as, look, this is going to happen, like we do this, but I don't always want to reference Arsenal. But remember their all or nothing a couple of years ago when. And you've got Arteta walking around the ground. And obviously, at that point in time, we'd just beaten them to the Champions League. And we were all having a laugh at them because Arteta's walking players around the training ground being like, we want to win the Champions League here. We want to win the Premier League here. And we were all like, hark at this. Like, what's he going on about? Now you're starting to see it come to a head. And you're like, maybe there is something in that. Maybe there is something in giving people something to believe in. Because one of the things that always irritated me, and I'm sorry if I'm going off to a different point, Ricky, but one of the things that always used to annoy me about Daniel Levy and about ENIC, ENIC is still here, but one of the things that always used to annoy me about Daniel Levy anyway, whenever he'd do his few seldom bits that he did with the press, it would never be up front, I built the stadium, now I'm going to build a club that's going to win the lot. He'd always be saying, it's difficult. It's difficult to compete. You need to understand it's always going to be difficult for a club like Spurs to compete with Manchester City, to compete with. You never hear that type of stuff from Arsenal. You don't. All you ever hear from them is, we want to win. And that's the mental. When we talk about, I personally.
It wasn't before, though. It wasn't. Yeah? I hear you, Jack, but before Arsenal fans marched onto the head offices of Arsenal and told Kroenkes, you need to back the manager. They weren't doing that. They were doing the complete opposite. And Jack Kroenke said, you know what? I commit to supporting this manager and supporting this club. And everything changed. But you're right. Since that moment, there's been no other mindset other than buying the best players and paying the money. None of this it's 50 million, let's all offer 30 million and haggle and then wait for someone else to come in. Like they did with Eze, like they did with Zubimendi. They do not mess around. So their whole mentality of, we want to win, we're going to win, we're going to buy the best players. And even the planning, when they bought Marino, right, they had the best double pivot with Zubimendi and Marino at Real Sociedad. They were the best double pivot in La Liga. When they bought Marino, they'd already planned Zubimendi. A year ahead, they had to wait. Liverpool tried to sign him. No. He's going to go to Arsenal. We're miles off of it. We signed Xavi because in the end, Chelsea took Garnacho and left him on the sidelines. That's opportunist signing. Right? This wasn't planned, long-term planned signing. Neither was Mawari.
Same with Richarlison, right? We had an opportunity. Everton were in trouble. Go on, let's have a go.
Same with, and as you guys know, it's the same with Brennan Johnson as well. Brennan was the same, unfortunately. Yeah, you look at a lot of the high-profile signings Spurs have made. They've more been made normally because the club's been in turmoil, needed the cash, and we've gone and spent the money. Johnny, just on Frank for a second. Frank has said it hopefully won't take too long for Spurs fans to see the side be more adventurous. Just how critical is this next couple of weeks for him? I'm not trying to gaslight the situation, but you're a home and away fan, right? You know, you will know that fans, they don't go at home at the moment. I've seen only one home win this season. And no one is trying to get away from the fact that our home form started with Thomas Frank. It started way before Thomas Frank. But, you know, as the optics read right now, we've taken only 4 points from the last 5 Premier League games. It's 3 wins in 11. How important is it, Johnny, that there does appear to be a progressive brand of football at least starting to take place in this next week or so to give fans the confidence that this is going to work? Because I think everyone does acknowledge, just to be clear, that the squad he's got to work with is nowhere near the level. I mean, you look at the fact that the forwards that are in at Brentford compared to Tottenham, they walk into Tottenham's first team at the moment. So no one's getting away from that. But how important is it in this next week or two, we do see some progression on that attack in front to give fans a confidence it will come?
Listen, first of all, this is something that's been going on a long, long time. Since November the 3rd, I think it is, 2024, we've won 4 games at home. Just take that in, right? 13 months nearly, we've won 4 games at home. Southampton and Burnley included in that. A shocking Man United and an Aston Villa. Each miles off it. It's some sort of mental state. That,
you know, Jay, the fans are going to come back and say, but what can he do to change that? We all know the stats are terrible. We all know they're brutal. What is this man going to do to give fans the confidence that he can turn the tide right now? Because you know as well, there are parallels being drawn to Nuno, for example, and they won't go away unless we do see some form of a change in the style itself. Is that going to happen, do you think, what he's got to work with? Can he let that handbrake off?
He ain't going to. Listen, all he's got to do, forget PSG, right? I mean, I don't know about
we say forget PSG, but all honesty, and we're going to come on to it. If he does decide to rotate for PSG, is that again damning confidence to players that go into the Fulham game, and then it's a real thing like, God, we've really got to win this game? And don't get me wrong, Fulham at home is a must-win. I'm not sitting there saying Fulham at home is not a must-win, but being battered by PSG in the process, I don't think it helps the confidence. I mean, it's a really difficult week for him, I'll be honest with you, because we're here for a PSG preview, but we're going to be honest about it. People might say it's crazy. It's European champion versus European champion. I know people are laughing when I say that, but...
Polar opposites.
I mean, the Fulham game's a massive game on Saturday. I
mean, listen, look, looking for a turnaround. The only thing I'll be turning around is my chair and facing the wall and not the television. But I think the thing is, look, he has to produce more than 0.6 and 0.07, which shouldn't be too difficult. Well, you'd think not. I mean,
you'd say that, but based on our recent results in the last,
they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. They're absolutely terrible. But I would say that Fulham is. I think we got 1 win in the last 5 games against Fulham. We got a terrible record against them. I truly fear for him. Look, I hope. I forget PSG, right? Whatever happens, guys.
Forget PSG. We're previewing PSG.
Yeah, but forget. I'm not putting any credence to it. But I think he's got to, out of Fulham, Brentford, and Newcastle, he's got to get 6 points out of that. He's got to, and he's got to show attacking intent in those games. Newcastle away, look. No one's found it easy there. They're superb at home. Yep. And we've somehow got to beat Brentford and Fulham. And not just beat them with 1 goal from a set piece, because that won't appease the fans. We have to show some attacking intent. And we've got to be brave. The trouble is, every time we tried to be brave last season, it ended in calamity. But hey, you got to throw the dice, Thomas, and now's the time to do it. You can't be playing this football. And as Patrick said just before, we have no identity currently. We have to find an identity. We have to find a style of play. Yes, you can change it up. Yes, you can change the tactics, but we don't have a style of play. I don't know what we're meant to be doing. I mean, I told everyone on Sunday we got 5 at the back, and they all said to me, "No, you mean 3 at the back?" I said, "No, 5 at the back," and everyone said, "See, you're idiot. It's 3 at the back." And as the game progressed, no, it was 5. None of them, not Adogi or Jed Spence went anywhere. It was 5 at the back. And when you're playing that sort of football and you can see the goal, it's game over. It's so good. He's going to have to change it up and get attacking. Quick.
Well, just on this point, Pat, he says that for him, I think we do take risks. We could take more. I think it's fair to ask those questions. We're not creating enough chances, which is the reality. It's my job to do anything to make sure that we do and want to create more on a more fairly regular basis and be better at it. That's what we're working hard on every day, to find that right formula. That's part of the play, but also part of it is how aggressive we are under pressure. That's what I will agree with him. We've kind of lost that aggressiveness with the ball. That's why I asked you earlier, Pat, whether you feel the players are still with him on the basis of just that lack of fight and lack of aggression, especially in the two, what many Spurs fans would say are the big London derbies of the season. Of course, we've got the reverse fixtures as well, Chelsea and Arsenal. But he's making the point that for him, it's very important the club do stick by him. And he said part of taking the job is taking the challenge. Part of this job is dealing with the setbacks. 1,000% sure I know how to build a team and build a club. And part of it is how to learn from the bad spells. The first 4 months, I've learned a lot about the team and the individuals. Pat, how much time do you think fans will need to give him to be able to see these changes take place? Because it does feel right now. I mean, look, we've done Arsenal Spurs for 8-9 years. I look at this chat here and Jack's here for the first time. It's very divided. There's a lot of people that are suggesting in this live chat here, Frank's got to go. There's some that are saying it's crazy to even be looking at a manager's job after 12, 15, 18 games. I can't believe we're again, Pat. Where are we? What are we expecting, Pat, in this next couple of months or couple of weeks?
The thing is, I can sit here and say, like I said earlier, we need to grow a backbone. We need to support the manager, all of that. But I do understand both sides of the coin right now. Everyone's got a valid argument. No one can belittle anyone else's opinion because the football is so bad. We're losing games and we're not seeing any intent. Like Johnny said, there's no attacking intent. There's no desire to get forward. I think Richarlison's shot when he scored from the halfway line was the first shot on target in the whole game. And that was just because it was a opportunity type of thing. You know, we're not creating chances. We're not putting teams under pressure. There's nothing there for fans to get behind. And it's not even like we're defensively solid and, you know, we're scoring from set pieces. We're not doing anything. We're not a set piece team. We're not an attacking team. We're not a defensive team. There's nothing. 5 at the back, 2 in midfield against a very, very good Arsenal team was suicidal from day dot. We made Eze look like a world-class world beater on Sunday. And that was what pissed me off the most. The guy that obviously they nabbed from us and hijacked, we gave him so much time and space on the ball. And even though no one's going to talk about it, if it wasn't for Vicario, it would have been 7-1. You know, how do we lose 4-1 and Vicario actually had a good game? That is bonkers. And I just look, I see what's going on. The fans are divided. There's a lot of infighting. And right now, I can't really begrudge anyone's opinion because it is correct. If you're getting 0.07 XG in a North London derby, like how can you defend that? Thomas Frank saying we do take risks. Where? When is the last time you saw this team take a risk? It makes no sense what he's saying. And I get he has to back himself, but show us something right now because I don't want to see Thomas Frank sacked because, again, ultimately that means that we as a club have failed yet again. It's embarrassing, man. How are we in December and we're talking about, November, sorry.
Well, November.
Excuse me, it's been that long. I'm getting battered from pillar to post. We're in November.
And we're talking
about possibly firing a manager. That shows you where we're at right now. But
Pat, on that point though, Pat, that they paid 10 million compensation to get him out of Brentford. And I think it's a very fair point that I heard friend of the show, Dan, was saying, Dan, of course, over at the Dr. Tottenham pod, that, we've had 6 managers in 6 years. I mean, the reality is that Min-hyeok when he was at Arsenal, he oversaw that period of Arteta where, like you mentioned at the start of the show, Arteta went through a really difficult period of supporters there, and they were calling for his head every week, and they stuck by him. So
they were.
I don't really sure. I mean, as much as the fans are showing their frustration, and rightly so right now, I keep saying to myself, I can't see this changing again anytime soon. But, we are seeing fans will vote with their feet. I think the Copenhagen game, there was 15,000 empty seats. Again, I appreciate that was down to more. That was down to more the costing of the game, don't get me wrong. Yeah. But I do think fans are becoming very, very frustrated and angry by the way Spurs are approaching games. And we saw this, Pat, with the Nuno period, that it really does matter to Tottenham fans. And we know because we know our football club, with all due respect, we know how much our identity is about being on the front foot, especially at home and attacking with the ball, which does it feel, Pat, quite a crucial period already at this stage here?
It does. And Jack made a good point. Some people from the outside would say, Tottenham fans are deluded. What do you expect or what do you want? But Jack is right. Like, we are, as a club, we expect to see some sort of desire, some sort of attacking football. We expect to, Spurs are a team that, we get bantered and this, that, and the fourth. But typically we finish in the top 4, top 6. We always play European football. We usually give it a go and we usually, scare quite a few teams. Over the last year and a half, we've actually become a joke and people enjoy now coming to the Spurs Stadium. It's a nice day out for away fans. Lovely stadium, great view, and they typically see their team pick up some points. It shouldn't be like that. I'm at a loss for words already, to be fair. It is a crucial period. And there's no excuses. He has to win these games. Newcastle, Brentford, Slavia Prague, we've got coming up. No excuses. You got to win these games, man. And of course, Newcastle away is a toughie. A really tough game. But Newcastle are beatable. And I've seen them get beat. And obviously, we've seen... there can't be any more excuses, to be honest. He needs to get the rotation right. He needs to get the team right. And he actually... every club is essentially an extension of the manager. So when you see the fans, the players coming out and they don't know what they're doing, there's no intensity, there's no backbone, that's because of Thomas Frank. So he needs to get it right. That's all I can say, really.
Just bringing in PSG into focus here, Jack. Look, Spurs aren't home and hosed in terms of the top 8. It looks unlikely now Spurs are going to finish in the top 8. We appreciate in this next 24 hours, there's games being played as we talk right now, as we go into tonight for Spurs against PSG. Spurs before, of course, this match week in the Champions League were in the top 10, which would guarantee the club a playoff spot. I know Jason made that point to me off air that a playoff spot does mean for the club it would be sandwiched actually before the Arsenal reversal game, which isn't ideal for the club, don't get me wrong. But it feels probably based on what we've done so far and with the games coming up, that maybe what Spurs are going to have to end up with. How does he go about, Jack, getting that rotation right for PSG and keeping the confidence going into Fulham on Saturday, where a lot of fans are suggesting really that Fulham is the bigger game in terms of needing to see a performance and a sense of direction from the team? How does he get that right, Jack, in terms of these 2 games coming up and that selection for you?
I mean, the thing is, people aren't going to like it. I wouldn't be surprised to see him line up against PSG like he did against Arsenal. I don't think it will be a drastically different lineup. I'll be surprised if he starts Randall Colomani, and he'll probably favour the more sort of defensive attacking option in Richarlison, somebody who can hold the ball up top, be a bit more physical, even though that didn't really come to much benefit against Arsenal. And I can't see him starting Xavi Simons. If he does, I think for me that's if he starts Simons against PSG, it's a real indication that he is learning from what it is that people are saying. It may be a sense that he is perhaps abandoning his own principles a bit. It's very interesting, but I think the thing for me is I agree with you, Ricky, in that Fulham is important, and for me, it is critical. It's critical in that Fulham game that we don't just beat them, that we play in a way that we want to see us playing. I don't think there's. Look, I agree with what Johnny was saying earlier. I don't think the squad is great. I don't think it's bad, but at the same time, I think it's been poorly assembled over a lot of years, a lot of opportunistic deals, a lot of opportunistic sort of purchases or players that are available, that type of thing. It's a mishmash, isn't it? Right? There's a lot of players who are individually very good that maybe if you put them into other teams, and we see this happens to Spurs a lot. You drop a player into another team, and people say, "Why did Spurs get rid of him? Look, he's gone and done amazingly there, or won a trophy, or whatever." I mean, that's usually what they do, isn't it, when they leave Spurs? But still,
the question is, though, Jack, this is the key question I think fans probably are asking themselves right now is we all know the squad is nowhere where it needs to be or where we want it to be, but should he be getting more out of it when you consider the way we played against PSG in the Super Cup for 80 minutes, the way we played against Man City away, where every player looked very much knowing of their jobs, were aggressive on the ball, first to the tackle, pretty much winning a lot of those duels. Where has that fight and aggressiveness gone in these last few weeks, which is now compiled to the fact we've won 3 of the last 11? Where's that gone? And can you get it back?
I don't know, because the thing is, I think what we can say about Frank is he's setting up his teams not to lose. It seems to be that he whatever it is, he wants to build this foundation. He's referenced the 17th place finish last season, right? That's clearly in the back of his mind. And to be honest, it probably should be in the back of all of our minds.
And he said again tonight, Jack, he said again tonight in terms of, I didn't say 17th, but he said once again that he made it very clear from his perspective that he's come in and worked on the notion that we conceded a hell of a lot of goals last season, and the priority was always going to be to focus on the back. But my worry is that, right, that seems logical to do, but it seems very little emphasis has been on what we do up front. And I appreciate the amount of goals we conceded last season, but you can't focus all your work, Jack, to let you come back in on the defence and very little on the attack, because that is now showing just how little we have been working from attacking play and patterns of play, because it just isn't quite there.
All of this stuff, football in general, right, I think we all know it's a big organic cycle. And the thing is, if Frank was losing games, but was at least going into games and putting up something of a fight, if there was at least an idea of there being some kind of pattern of play or an intent or an ideology or an ethos building, the fans... Look, we've lost to Arsenal before. This is the thing. We've all in our lifetimes experienced losing to Arsenal plenty of times before. This one in particular has hit. I mean, I'm speaking for myself here, but I think a lot of other people who I've spoken to share this. This one hit a bit different, not only because obviously we're seeing Arsenal probably on their way to winning the league this year, and that's painful. But at the same time, it's seeing the lack of fight, like you're talking about there, Rick. Like there's that lack of desire, there's that lack of intent. That's what we want to see from our team. We talk about fans being entitled and all this. The only thing we're entitled to is seeing our team put in a performance. That's what we want. Really, in our heart of hearts, that's what we all want. I think most fans, as much as the media or whoever, will always paint fans out as the lowest common denominator, as mouth-breathing idiots and all this type of thing. Right? Fans are actually pretty rational and they're pretty reasonable, and they understand that their team is going to lose games. Right? Yeah, exactly. But yeah, still, I think most people understand it's a competition at the end of the day. You're going to lose games. But what you want to see is you want something to hang your hat on, right? You want something to believe in. And right now, Frank isn't giving that to us. That's what he has to do. That's what he has to start to build. Xavi Simons, right, as we were talking about earlier, he might not be like up to speed with the Premier League yet, right? He might not be up to speed with the physicality, the tempo, whatever it is, the various different things that people have said. The only way he's going to get that is if he gets exposed to more time in the Premier League. But I feel that from Spurs' side, anyway, at least, we looked infinitely more positive the second he came on the pitch against Arsenal.
I do agree.
And it wasn't perfect. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he was a superstar. No. I'm not saying he was going to turn the tide, but the seeds of intent were there. Yeah. And that's what I want to see. You know, I don't want to keep referencing Arsenal, so I'll reference, say, Pochettino's early years at Tottenham, because
don't say him. I'm joking.
There are some similarities there, because look, what we can see is, right, you can bring in. We've got a lot of hungry young players. We've got a good academy, right? For too long, the club has been petrified of losing games has been too scared of like using these youth players appropriately, right? But what you get from youth, and it's not that every single youth player is going to be Harry Kane. They're not all going to be superstars. But what you do get from the majority of youth players are players that are eager to play, that are desperate to make an impression, that more often than not support the club as well. It's a privilege to be playing for the club. And you've seen like, that's happened with us in the past. You've seen that with Townsend. You've seen that with players like Mason who come in, give us some forward momentum, give us some impetus. And then, we leave them behind a bit because we understand that they're not maybe of the quality that is going to take us forward long term, right? And like I say, Arsenal have had that recently, right? They cycle in lots of these young players, but what it keeps doing is giving them boost. It gives them an energy. It makes everybody feel like we're all on the same page. We're all working towards something here, right? Tottenham Hotspur isn't just 11 men on a match day that we have to sit behind and see, right, that's what it is. It's not, it's bigger than that. It's like I say, is this big organic, living, breathing organism that we all have to play into. But what that comes from ultimately, primarily, is on a match day, the manager just inspiring a bit of belief in things. And I'm repeating myself here, Rick, but that's what we want to see from Frank. That's what we want to see from Frank. And look, if he does go defensive against PSG, I think people will understand that to a degree. I don't think everyone's going to be very happy about it. I don't really fancy seeing us do that, to be honest. I would like to see us give him a game like we did in the Super Cup and nearly beat him, So why shouldn't we go into games like that? It's a bit of a free hit. Look, it's easy to say that, and if we lose 5-6-7-0, then there are going to be serious questions asked of him. But is that actually going to happen? Or if Spurs go out, play a good game in Paris and lose 2-0, right? We'll be gutted, but I think we will say, that's what I wanted to see. That's what I want to see from my team. And then let's take that energy. Let's take that, the positive momentum that's coming from not only the media, who will be saying Spurs put in a valiant effort, maybe Frank is turning over a new leaf. The belief will come from the fans. They'll bring that energy into the stadium against Fulham, and things start to grow. But we need that. We need that positive platform in this respect to start building from, to start going forwards. We just need some belief, mate. We need something to believe in, and Frank isn't giving that to us at the moment.
I just said this, in the last few weeks, John, and you've been on here for these shows, and I've been with you. I've been saying he needed a statement win, a statement performance. He hasn't had that against Chelsea or Arsenal. It's been the complete polar opposite. Jack references there about maybe looking, dare I say, at what we've got, opportunities for players in the youth. The one that screams out is Dane Scarlett. Would it be the worst thing in the world, Johnny, to give Dane Scarlett a run out? I mean, where are we right now? You don't seem...
Come on. Let's be serious here, right? Okay. I watched the academy as well. Dane Scarlett couldn't even start for Portsmouth. Come on, guys. What are we doing here, right? Can he come on? Can he come on as a sub? Of course he can, right? But he's not starting. He's not starting. Listen, Kolo Muani would be starting if he didn't have a broken jaw and a dead leg and God knows what else. But
John, where's that? Just on that point then. So, like Jack says there was that. I mean, I hate going back to Pochettino, but Jack sent me there. With Poch, there was that trigger moment, wasn't there? Of course, Kane scoring against Aston Villa all those years ago. It was that trigger moment that really lit the touch paper for Pochettino at that point.
Kane, right?
No, I'm not saying he's Harry Kane, but there's going to be there's going to have to be a moment, isn't there, where there's going to have to be some flick of a switch or something is going to need to happen to try and reinvigorate Frank's time at Spurs. Already it feels, with regards to where we are right now, how does he play it right then when it comes to the PSG game and the Fulham game? Because you've openly admitted, I think we've all openly admitted on this show that where we are right now, probably the Fulham game is the one this week, which is the most important one. But I think it's really important to see a performance at least against PSG. How can he do that given, I think we all know, the golfing quality in relation to the two sides and what they've got in terms of at their disposal?
Look, I'm all for youth.
But you don't think you just don't think he's there?
He's screaming for Ange to give the kids a go last season. Yeah, but I wasn't talking about Dane Scarlett history of Tottenham, just for your reference, FYI. Okay? Let's be serious, okay? I was calling for kids to be given a chance in certain competitions, okay? In the Carabao Cup, okay? And in lesser games in the Europa League when we were in the league stage, not in the Premier League and not in the knockout stages of the Europa League. Okay, let's be sensible. I believe in our youth system. It's changed dramatically since Fabio came in and ripped it all up and brought the players in. But Rome weren't built in a day, and we're going to have to wait a while before we start to see the fruits of that investment. We've seen Vuskovic, Mikey Moore, Barnett. There's a few. There's a good few. I'm not going to go through them all.
Yeah.
I don't think Dane Scarlett is the elite one of those players. Would I keep him on the bench, bring him on as a sub? Absolutely. Why not? Right? Give him a chance. But I don't think he's ready to start. That's my opinion. I think this team looks completely different. I mean, you saw how many injuries we've got. I don't want to make excuses, but it's facts, guys. If you had Kulu, Maddison, and Solanke, 3 of all of those players that are out, we'd look totally different, right? Totally different. But we haven't, and we have to make use of it. Odegaard has improved, but he's nowhere near it. Tell, not good enough. Don't get me started about backdoor Johnson.
But on Johnson, for example, and look, I'm in agreement with Johnson that for me, he does very little but score. But my argument at the moment is that in a team that is really, really struggling to score goals right now, and a player that you've got on the bench there that got 17, 18 last season, and yes, a lot of them might have been tap-ins, surely you would try and do something, change anything to try and get the team scoring again. And whilst I recognise that Johnson doesn't offer a huge amount to the team apart from scoring, but in a team that's struggling to score right now, John, is there an argument that there must be a way of getting him in the team? We are really, really struggling right now to score goals.
So who do you take off? You don't play Kudus and you play him? Are you telling me you play him up front as our striker? Because which is what I've seen suggested. The guy can't beat a man. I saw him. I got up and applauded him about 3 games ago where he actually went past the player and crossed the ball, right? Taking on his man. Doesn't do it. He's not aggressive enough, right? Look, I'd be only too happy if he turned around and suddenly found some aggression, because I think if he was aggressive enough and he took on his players, and won free kicks, okay, I think he'd be in the team a lot more. I said beginning of the season, this Brennan Johnson version from last season will not get in Thomas Frank's team unless he's more aggressive, unless he takes players on, because that's the type of player he had. And Mbuemo and Vissa and Sade, they're expected to take players on. Look, I don't have the answer because I don't think we've got enough players right now. You put Xavi Simons in. Xavi Simons needs runners, okay? He's going to pick up the ball. He needs players ahead of him, not behind him, as what we had on Sunday. He picked up the ball and there was no one there. It was Richarlison on his own. And when he's losing the ball, he wasn't even closing down players. He needs runners ahead of him. So who are they going to be? Wilson, Odegaard, and Kudus. That's it. Mawani, if he's fit, starts ahead of Richarlison. Personally, I would play playing Richarlison. If Mawani was fit, I'd have Mawani up top. I'd have Richarlison on the left. I'd have Kudus on the right, and obviously Xavi in the middle there. The other thing is Papa Sarr. Papa Sarr, the one that baffles me, is that Papa Sarr was having a really good season. I know he got a couple of knocks, but it seemed to me we lost. He's got great legs, not how his legs look, but he runs forever, right? I love him as a player. He's got energy. He can go for 90 minutes. He
never hides either. Papa Sarr never hides.
And I think, maybe we need to see Bentancur come out, and we need to see Papa Sarr play alongside Paulinho, who, despite not having the greatest, speed or what have you, he still manages to break up play. And we saw him break up the play in the middle of the park, which enabled, Richarlison to convert that beautiful shot. Just on Richarlison, by the way, I think he's the 5th best striker in the country. And I think he's one behind Mateta, one behind Mbuemo.
Frank made that point in his press conference, about the fact that he does improve strike. He said Richarlison, he scored 5 so far.
I'm just saying, but I would say that the way things are going, Richarlison's looking like an elite finisher with the amount of chances, the crosses that he actually gets. It's not good enough. More crosses in the box, more everything. You can't get worse than what we've been in these last 2 games. You just can't.
Yeah. I mean, again, that's the reason, John, I come over to you, Pat. The reason I'm suggesting, I understand people's reservations about Johnson because he's very ineffective in a lot of games where if he doesn't score, what is he doing? He goes missing. Don't get me wrong, but he's got 2 games to navigate here, PSG and of course Fulham, where I think he's got to try and go into that Fulham game with at least a feeling that there's not that massive amount of pressure on him, which there will probably still be, even if we do lose gracefully to PSG. How does he get, Pat, to you, that balance of the team for PSG as we look to try and get to that point of the show?
Yeah, you know what? Johnny made a few points that I disagreed with, but the one that I did agree with was the Brennan Johnson one. And that is like, with Brennan Johnson in the team, unless there's somebody creating for him, he's literally ineffective and he won't do anything else. He can't create for himself. He can't take his man on. He doesn't create chances for other players. So unless he is running on the back stick, which he is great at, that you got to give him his credit, that has a skill in itself to always be in the right position at the right time. But somebody needs to create for him to tap that in or, to finish. And at the moment, we aren't creating any chances. So there's no point Brennan Johnson being on the pitch because he's not going to do anything else. With the Dane Scarlett thing, Johnny, I think that at some point you have to trust in the youth that you bring through the ranks. Otherwise, what's the point of them being there?
I do trust them.
And I don't think Dane Scarlett could do any worse than Richarlison. I would have started Dane Scarlett in that North London derby personally. Richarlison's been absolutely awful all season. Dane Scarlett, being a Tottenham boy, knows what a North London derby is. And he actually, when he's on the pitch, has been doing more than Richarlison. Yeah, Richarlison's got a few goals, but if you look at Dane Scarlett's overall play, it's actually been quite good. So I would have started him in a North London derby. I don't see why not. And for me, I don't see him starting again.
Sorry, Patrick. When you say his overall play, how many minutes has he been on the pitch?
Whenever he has played, he's done more. I'm basing it off of the Champions League game where he actually created something, got fouled, drew a penalty, should have been allowed to take it. Obviously, Richarlison took it and missed it. And when I've seen Dane Scarlett play, he's done more in his limited minutes than Richarlison has. So I would have given him the run out in the North London derby. PSG, no, I think that's a game too big for him. And I play him against Fulham. Richarlison.
So you would start him over Mawani over all of them?
He scored a couple goals.
The Wi-Fi's giving us that answer.
Sorry, say that again.
No, I was just saying, would you start?
I'm here. I think I'm here. So go on.
No, I said, would you start him over Mawani and Richarlison?
Against PSG, no.
No, against Fulham.
Well, is Mawani fit to play though? Because if he's not fit, then I'd start him.
He's got a gimp mask. I don't know.
I know. That's it. So yeah, I'd start him over Richarlison, 100%. Sometimes you've got to give a youngster or any player an actual run out and see what they can do. Otherwise, I don't see the point of them being there. What's the point of Dane Scarlett being there if he's not actually going to be given a chance?
He's only there because he was injured and therefore couldn't go out on loan. Did you see him on loan last season at Portsmouth?
Yeah, I did, but that's we could use that argument for a lot of players. Even Harry Kane, like Ricky said, Harry Kane was at Leicester, didn't do anything. He was at Norwich, didn't do anything. We can use that for a lot of players. It happens.
Apples and bananas don't.
No, at the end, you got to give someone a chance, otherwise you'll never know. So let's give him that chance.
I think that's it for me with Scarlett as well. Is that we know what we're getting from Richarlison. Like Patrick's saying, you know exactly what it's going to be. He's going to be 4-5 out of 10 players most week, and then 5-6 times a season you'll get an 8 out of 10 performance, and that masks really because his stats always show a quite decent player, but we know how limited he is. We know that he's never consistent. We know that he is not somebody that we can build on to be reliable, to be sustainable for us. I agree with Patrick. I probably would have given Scarlett a go in the North London derby. If Randall Colomwani wasn't fit, and that's the caveat, he would have started for me. But because if it was deemed that he wasn't fit enough to start the game, I don't see the harm in chucking somebody like Scarlett in. And
what happens if it goes wrong? So if it goes wrong,
that's what happens, isn't it? But
Thomas Frank an idiot for starting.
But that's it. You got to take risks, haven't you? Because I think we could have all said before that game that's exactly the performance that we knew we were going to get from Richarlison. But if you chuck in someone like Scarlett, who I do, again, I agree with Patrick in that the few times we see him, he always looks promising. He always looks like somebody that wants to give a bit more for the shirt. There's a photo of him as a, whatever he is, 6-7-year-old kid next to Gareth Bale in his Tottenham colours. Like, you can't tell me it doesn't mean something to a lad like that.
To
be given opportunities to Tottenham.
No, I'm not saying it didn't mean anything. I'm not saying...
I don't mean you.
No,
I mean just as a rhetoric. So I'm not. Yeah.
The narrative here is right. Don't spin the narrative. The narrative for me is I'm willing to let him come on as a sub. I want to see him come on as a sub. What I'm saying is I don't think he should be starting the game. It's a different thing. I'm not disrespecting Dane Scarlett. I think Dane Scarlett, as you said, Patrick and Jack, when he came on, he looked busy. He won the penalty, and quite rightly, I also agree he should have taken the penalty. But I don't know whether or not, whether you say it's a risk. It is a risk, but in the North London derby to start someone like Scarlett against Saliba and Hincapié, I don't know. I think it needed someone who was going to battle. And in all truthfulness, he wouldn't have got a ball because no balls were going up there. It would have probably done him more harm than good. But I'm all for him coming on as a sub and taking his chance, just like any other player.
The one thing to close on this point is that you just feel Frank would get some acknowledgement from the fans if he was trying something different. And I think giving Scarlett a start, Johnny, and I agree with you, based on what people have seen in the last few years, they would be questionable as to whether he can make that step up. Don't get me wrong, but it is something different, and it's an acknowledgement that he's trying something that he hasn't done already. So it will be interesting. I think it's a difficult one with regards to PSG and how he gets that right. I am aware, for those that mentioned it earlier on the live chat, I am aware Johnson is suspended for the PSG game, so it won't be an option. But I was talking more generally in terms of trying to find goals in the team, what Spurs are going to do. In terms of teams going into this one, I believe at the moment they are without PSG, both Desiree Doué, he's got a hamstring issue, and Ballon d'Or winner Ousmane Dembele's got a calf, but Bradley Barcola and the name I
Sorry,
hate
Ricky,
to
they're
pronounce-
saying Dembele's fit to play. I've seen a few reports saying that he's ready.
Is he really fit to play?
Yeah, he's trained well and he's ready. So ironically, he's back for us.
I was trying to give us some hope, Pat.
Yeah,
Look,
sorry, man. Sorry.
On that point, then. So look, we've addressed the fact of what we need to try and see in these next few weeks, guys. To close on the fact, Fulham on the Saturday. What do we need to see in these next couple of weeks to give us all the confidence that this is going to turn around? John, we'll start with you. We're going to end on Jack. John, what do you need to see in these next couple of weeks?
Bloody improvement.
I know you can't all that new stuff I've got from my end.
I want to see fight. I want to see commitment. I don't want to see trotting around. I don't want to see Xavi, the golden boy Simmons, going like this, putting his hand to his head, like bemoaning the fact you just passed the ball to an opposition player. Get back and track back, right? Stop the bullshit, right? All of you have to press. I've
got to say for the viewers and audio, someone's just said, what do you want to see? A shot on target.
One of the strangest things, Ricky, that I heard was he doesn't like them to shoot from distance. Yes. Well, I'm sorry. If we only had 2 touches in the box, we couldn't be doing anything. Shoot from outside the box. Sometimes it can take a deflection. Sometimes it can fall into the path of your striker or your winger. Take chances, right? I don't want to see horseshoe football. So I want to see aggression. I want to see commitment. I don't want to see shots on target. Possession inside the box and crosses. Basics. It's going
to be an interesting next few weeks, isn't John? We look forward to seeing you back on it.
All I'll say is if he doesn't get a result with Fulham in that three of Fulham, Newcastle and Brentford, if he doesn't come away with at least 6 points out of those games, I think he could be in big dog do.
But we all keep saying that, but no one can give us a solution as to who would even come in. I know we're going to keep dragging on. I know.
There isn't anyone really, apart from Dame Scarlett. Captain Scarlett to the rescue.
Give it a Dame Scarlett to the end of the season. John, you've been a star. Pat, we'll come to you. Sorry, Pat, you're coming back on the show in the middle of what looks like to be another. You don't do quiet shows, do you? In terms of quiet moments.
I don't do easy
what are
moments,
you coming back into on here? Jesus Christ.
No honeymoon periods. No, no easing me in. It's just straight back to the crazy.
Well, I think you started last one on Spurs in the Stellini era, didn't you? So what we should have known this was coming. What do you need to see Pat in these next few weeks? All joking aside, people saying a shot on target, getting into the opposition's third.
Yeah, to be fair, I'm stealing both of those. Shots on targets, actual attacking football with intent, like Johnny said, some courage, some desire. But I think first and foremost, like I said earlier, the team is a mirror of the team is mirrored in the manager's image, or however you want to say it. So I need to see the team set up properly. You don't need a double pivot of Bentancur and Paulinho at home to a Fulham, with all due respect. Then you're losing at least one attacking player, or you're losing somebody who is a dynamic number 8 like a Sarr or a Bergvall that can get up and down the pitch and chip in with goals. So he needs to get the balance right. The balance hasn't been right for a long time. Thomas Frank, one of the things I said about him is that he's, tactically astute, tactical, not genius, but he's someone that is, tactically gets it right and essentially adapts to the opposition. We're not seeing that at the moment. He's getting it wrong game after game. So the manager needs to really, and be a bit braver, like to try and stifle the opposition and then get one, nick a goal isn't the way we want to see us set up. We need to actually play our brand of football. At the moment, what I'm seeing him do is almost essentially trying to nullify the opposition and then we'll sneak a goal. Yeah. I'm not seeing him play to our players' strengths in the attacking third. So that's what I'd like to see. Hopefully he does that. The PSG game is an interesting one because realistically, that without being a defeatist, that's a game you expect to lose. Going away to, of course, it's the Champions League, and we relish these moments. The best teams playing in Europe, massive games, but no one would begrudge a game like that if we lose, but show intent. But Fulham at home, that is a game we have to win. There's no excuses there.
Yeah, Pat, welcome back. Welcome back to what's going to be a very interesting spell here. It's never a quiet time. Honestly. Pat, you've been a superstar. Thank you so much. Jack, we'll close with you. What a debut. We'd love to have Jack back on here more often. I'm not sure whether Jack wants to come back more often, depending on what we've got to come. I tell you.
I very much enjoy it, Ricky, and thank you. Yeah, thanks to Johnny, Patrick as well. It's been lovely chatting with you all this evening. And what do I want to see? I want to see at least, like Johnny's saying, I want to see us at least be beating Brentford, at least be beating Fulham. And do you know what? I think if I'm going to blue sky it, Ricky, right, or lily white sky it, I should say, really. I want to see us get a cheeky result at either PSG or Newcastle. I want that result. I want that thing that gives us something to believe in, right? And maybe that might be asking for a bit too much. 2 very difficult games, but we're Tottenham Hotspur at the end of the day, mate. We know we can show up in these games. We know we can, right? When people doubt us, people say we're Spursy, we're this, we're that. We can still always show up, and that's why we love them, And I think this is what Frank needs. This is what the fans need. It's what the players need. Just show up, get one of these big scalps, and let's build on from there. And also, I'm never beating that comment that came a shot on target. That would be lovely as well, wouldn't it? But
Listen,
thank you very much, Ricky. Thank you for having me on.
Jack, it could be worse. We could be Man United.
Exactly.
Right? We could be Man City. They lost again tonight, right? We could be any of them.
I saw a very funny comment on Twitter in the week with this Man United fan that was saying, I watched Spurs against Arsenal on the weekend and I thought, how do we lose to this shower of shit? And then I saw us play against Everton and thought, that's how we did, So,
Jack, very quickly, where can we find the podcast that you do if everyone needs a therapeutic listen? Well, they're all therapeutic at the moment.
Search for Rule The Roost Podcast so you can listen to it wherever you listen to podcasts. And I've got a YouTube channel as well where you can find it there, and I stream after every game. So thank you very much for having me on there, Ricky. I appreciate it.
Jack, you've been a star. Team, panel, Johnny, you'll see him coming out the side of the stadium, then back in the stadium, and then back on here somewhere and everywhere. Catch him, of course, on the Insta. Talking Tottenham 82 and Johnny H323 on the Insta. Patty is back. Pat, welcome back. Never going to be a quiet moment in store, it feels at the moment. And Jack is, of course, Rule The Roost podcast for you out there, audio and YouTube. Guys, thank you so much. Let's try and keep the faith. Let's try and respect everybody out there for their different views. God help us what we've got to come. We're going to need to stick together. Can't believe I'm already saying that. Come the end of November. God, what we're in store for. From Johnny, from Pat, from Jack, from me. We've been the last one on Spurs. Guys, strap in. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
No pain,